Welcome back to the Ebony Collective. So in this video, I want to touch on Kenya Moore and Brit Eady from The Real Housewives of Atlanta. And the reason why I want to talk about these two is because this is a classic example of the humbling tactic. So what I'm going to speak about today is really touching and honing on an example of what you ladies could go through if someone is trying to humble you. And obviously, this situation is between two women, and they're in a group of women. So it's around a table of other women who are watching and observing. But this one was really something that I felt like actually a lot of ladies can probably relate to this, because a lot of people have been in similar situations where someone has tried to humble you. So by listening to these tips and kind of breaking it down, I can help you to avoid similar situations as much as possible. Now, I would say the humbling tactic is almost a setup. And the reason why I believe that is because a lot of people go into situations knowing that other people are going to be there. And say, for example, another woman is coming to an event or to a dinner that you might dislike, or they might dislike you. There's always going to be room for that person to begin their takedown of you before you even get there. So personally, I would say that the humbling tactic doesn't actually start at the event or when you're actually in a particular situation. The humbling tactic starts as soon as your friend, in quotations, or your frenemy knows that you will be attending a particular event. So that, like I said, that could be a dinner, that could be a party, that could just be a meetup, a get together, a gathering, whatever it is. If that person knows that you're coming and they have some ill feelings towards you, their humbling tactic starts even before you have arrived. And I would go even further back and say that the humbling tactic for that person in particular will start the moment that they find out that you are going. So they are going to start prepping themselves for your arrival. They are going to start running over in their mind how they're going to interact with you, how they're going to communicate with you, what type of subjects and topics are they going to bring up. And particularly, they probably will bring up things that make you feel uncomfortable, or they're going to bring up something that makes you that you know that you don't want to talk about, but suddenly this person wants to talk about it in front of a room full of other people. So really, they just want to make sure that there's an audience there watching the takedown. So yeah, I definitely believe that. I believe that a lot of people, when they're trying to humble someone, their takedown starts even before that event has started. That takedown will start even before they've come face to face with you. And like I said, they will mull over what they're going to say to you, how they're going to say it to you, when they're going to say it to you, what type of things they're going to speak to you about in front of other people. Now, the humbling tactic is something that has to be really done, essentially, I would say, in front of an audience. So the more people that can witness the humbling tactic, the better for that person. So say, for example, this person is your frenemy. The more people that they can have observing what's going down, the better for them, the better feeling that they're going to have coming out of it if they felt like it was a success. But obviously that's going to make you feel like shit. That's going to make you feel like, actually, what is going on here? And if you're not prepared for these type of situations, you will go into that type of situation naively. So you've probably attended this event, in high spirits, in a positive mood, really friendly. But this person in particular is going to find everything and anything they can to put you on blast. But they're not necessarily going to do it directly. They'll probably do it, through, I would say, subliminals. They're going to throw a bit of shade here and there. They might take notice of what you're wearing, or how you're dressed, how your hairstyle is, how your nails are, what color your nails are. Like, they're so observant. They will focus and notice every single thing. They will even notice things that for yourself you thought were quite insignificant and not really that important. But to this person, your frenemy, for them, they're very observant. They are going to watch you up and down, And again, if you come in smiley, chirpy, excited, friendly, they're going to try to humble you in a sense of, throwing in some type of comment to make you feel small, or the opposite. So if you come into a situation and I know that some people have what we call resting bitch face. So they might not think that you're being very friendly. They might think that you're being quite cold. And again, that's going to be another subject for this frenemy to be able to use against you in front of other people. And I'm talking from experience here. So I'm not saying anything that I haven't been through in the past. I've actually been through situations like this before. And now that I'm older, I'm so much more wiser to it. But ladies, it's so important for you to be aware of these type of situations because they happen all the time. And even when it hadn't involved me, I've seen humbling tactics and the takedowns happen so often, especially around a group of women. It happens all the time. So you have to be alert. You have to be prepared for this fight that you're going to go into. You need to go into this with the person thinking that you are so unprepared for the takedown, but really in your mind, you know that potentially this is something that could happen. Now, if it doesn't happen, great. Get through that event, get through that day, get through that gathering, party, drink up, whatever, get through it, enjoy yourself. But if it does happen, at least I know that I've come here to say and to prepare you for these type of situations, because like I said, they happen all the time, and especially amongst women. So with Kenya Moore and Brit Eady, what I saw on Real Housewives of Atlanta was a humbling tactic. Now, I think that Brit Eady had someone whispering in her head. But remember, she's new to Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I believe that before she came onto the show, she had someone in her ear prepping her about the different cast members, or, giving her information, feeding her information about people, even if it wasn't true. And obviously, of course, when you're going to meet a new group of women, you do want to be prepared, I suppose, especially if it's something that you're on national TV, and you're up for the public to really judge you. So, of course, you want to know who you're going to be interacting with and who you're going to be around. Fair enough. But I do believe that she probably had a pre-judgment of Kenya anyways, and she probably had other people prepping her about Kenya and probably feeding her negative information about her before she even met Kenya. And then when she did meet with her face to face, I think their first interaction wasn't that great. Brit didn't take kindly to some of the comments that Kenya had made. I think it was around her ring or something like that. And I think from there, that kind of got Brit's back up. And then when they've had other interactions, it hasn't gone so well. So when we've had this situation at the table, when they've met up and again, it's a gathering, and there's all the ladies are at a table, a question is asked by Brit to Kenya, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there to the point where it escalates and Brit ends up. So Kenya gets up from the table because she can see that this is just not even worth the battle. Everybody's leaving. Brit gets so worked up, she ends up calling her husband. And I think by the time they get outside, she ends up threatening Kenya, not directly to her face, but obviously within the point that Kenya can hear Brit going off and kind of threatening her with a G. Not going to say the full word, but I hope you can follow me here. So she threatens her with some type of pistol or a G, and Kenya heard that. So then the second humbling tactic came was when Kenya's reaction to that at her own event, which obviously hasn't gone down too well in what she did, but what Kenya did in terms of showing those photos was in retaliation for what Kenya had felt Brit had done to her and put her on blast, and tried to have a moment with Kenya in front of the ladies. And if you know Kenya Moore, you know what she's like. We know how Kenya is. We know her backstory. I think that because Kenya's been on the show longer, she has more fans anyways. And I'm not going to lie, I actually do like Kenya. I think that she's actually, she says it how it is, that she's quite upfront. She's direct. She's got her own personality. She's not one to just kind of sit in and fall in the background. You know what I mean? Like, she is out there. She puts herself out there. She can be controversial, but I actually do like her. And I think her likability comes from the fact she's been on the show for a long time. So having someone like Brit come on to try to humble someone like Kenya, who is pretty much an OG on the show. She's been through so many seasons on Real Housewives of Atlanta. That in a way was like, what was you thinking, Brit, in terms of trying to bring her down in that moment? Because essentially Brit was probably thinking she's trying to stick up for herself and show Kenya who I am, and do you know who I am, and I'm this type of woman, etc., etc., etc. But the bigger picture is that Kenya is actually bona fide. Like, she's been on the show for seasons and seasons and seasons. She's got a better relationship with a lot of the ladies on the show. She's got a good relationship with ladies who have been on the show. So I don't think that the humbling tactic for Brit really served its purpose, and it actually made her look worse because of what she said, and the comments were threatening and offensive. But what my point is that those type of situations are common. I'm not saying that we're going to get threatened with some type of weapon. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that the situation itself is something that is common. And if you don't recognize it in that moment, you can rise to it to the point where you can actually come out looking worse. And that's why I would call it's a humbling tactic, and it's a setup, because you end up looking worse for defending yourself for someone who basically and essentially tried to humble you in the first place. And women, unfortunately, do that a lot. And I think it stems from, fear. It stems from insecurity. Sometimes if someone sees you as being more confident than them, more likable than them, if people are more drawn to you, other women notice that and they get jealous, and they have to find a way to bring you down. And unfortunately, they try to hone in on any type of insecurities that they know you might have, or even if it's not an insecurity that you've expressed, suddenly this person will, say something about your appearance to try and make you feel bad, or say something about the way you're looking or the way you're drinking your drink. It could be something so small, the way you're dressed, the way who you're talking to. Like, these women are so observant. They would just figure out and try to find anything and everything to be able to use that against you in that moment. And what you have to also understand is that the humbling tactic is very, very short. So the window of opportunity for someone to do this to you could be very short, but all it takes is for them to catch that moment with you, and to catch an audience as well, and they will go in for the kill. They will go in there with the shade. They will go in there with the comments. They will go in there trying to make you feel bad and trying to get a rise out of you, so that essentially you come out of that situation looking worse. So I've had this happen to me before, and like I said, I've even witnessed other ladies go through this, to the point where I'm looking at the worst and thinking, you do realize this person is actually trying to get a rise out of you. Like, they're trying to lure you in, reel you in, catch you, and then they're literally just gonna kind of be like, okay, see, they're smiling inside because they've got the reaction from you that they wanted, and they want people to see you in a negative way. But what they don't understand is that can also backfire to the point where it then ends up making them look worse. But the ultimate goal of the humbling tactic is to make you look bad. The ultimate goal of the humbling tactic is to feed in insecurities into you, if you didn't have it before, for them to really hone in and try to focus on any type of insecurity through comments, through their attitude, through talking about you to other people in the event, so that they then suddenly have a negative opinion on you. So the humbling tactic can really go down and spiral into a rabbit hole. But I just wanted to give you an example of the situation that happened in the Real Housewives, where I can actually say that what I felt was happening was Brit was trying to assert herself. She was trying to show who she is and stick up for herself, but to the point where she was also trying to humble a long-running cast member, and it did backfire, I think. But let me know what you think in the comments. You might not agree, but I do think that ultimately she started it, and then Kenya retaliated. I don't agree with what Kenya did, but I know that what she did was from a place of retaliation, of how she felt threatened by this particular person. So ladies, beware of the humbling tactic. Like I said, it's something that can happen in any situation, mainly when there's an audience, mainly when there's people observing. The ultimate goal is to bring down your insecurities. But like I say, always remember who you are. Stay confident in yourself. Speak positive affirmations over your life daily, and be aware of these type of women.